I'm Zim, and you're listening to the Helpful Photographer Podcast in collaboration with Boundless Photo Safari. If you'd like to join me on one of my trips, visit boundlessphotosafari.com. Today's episode is for Letitia in Portland, Oregon. She asked a great question. How do you decide which neutral density filter to use in any given situation? Honestly, the answer is pretty straightforward, but I get this question a lot, so she's definitely not alone. ND filters only do one thing, and that is to reduce the amount of light entering your camera. So if you're reaching for one, it means you've got too much light and you're trying to reduce it, usually to allow for a slower shutter speed, although there are those who are using it so that they can open their aperture wider in open sunlight. So how do you choose which ND you need? Well, here's an example. Say you're photographing a waterfall in the middle of the day, the sun's out, no clouds, no shade. In that situation, almost guaranteed, your base exposure is going to be f16, ISO 100, and 125th of a second. If you didn't catch that, I'll say it again and you need to write it down. Pause now and get a piece of paper. Your base exposure is going to be f16, ISO 100, and 125th of a second. That's 1/125. But to make the water look silky, you need a much longer shutter speed, somewhere around 2 seconds. So how do you get from 125th to 2 seconds? First of all, you count the stops. A stop is an increment of light. And I got into that in the previous episode. So if you want to better understand stops, give that a listen. All right, so here we go. 125th goes to a 60th goes to a 30th goes to a 15th goes to an 8th goes to a 4th goes to a half second goes to 1 second, 1 second goes to 2 seconds. If you are counting along, that's 8 stops of light. So how do we reduce the light by 8 stops? Since you're already at ISO 100, you can't go any lower. Maybe you can squeeze one more stop by going from f16 to f22, but that still leaves you at 7 stops, and you can get that from an ND filter. Most ND filters come in fixed values. Most commonly, 5 or 10 stops. There are 1 and 2 stop filters out there, and you can stack them on top of your 5-stop filter, but stacking multiple filters isn't always ideal, and I don't know anyone who has all of them. On the other hand, if you have a variable ND, you can just dial in the 7 stops you need. Easy. But let's say you only have a 5-stop filter, making you 2 stops short. So now what? An option would be to shorten the shutter speed to a half second instead of 2 seconds. This gives you your 2 stops. It's not perfect, but you'll be close enough for most purposes. Notice we're not touching ISO, because again, you're already at 100. And that's usually as low as you can go. And we are also at f22, and that's usually the max for most lenses. Now, hang on, you could actually add a polarizing filter, which would give you 1 or 2 stops of light loss as well. Let's go to the other side. What if you have too much ND and you only have a 10-stop filter? That's 3 stops too many. This is actually not a bad place to be. You have several options you can deploy. You can increase your time by 3 stops, going from 2 seconds to 16 seconds. If you didn't catch that, 2 goes to 4, 4 goes to 8, 8 goes to 16. That's 3 stops. Another option is to open your aperture 3 stops. f22 goes to 16, f11, f8. That's 3 stops. And personally, this would be my preference. A third option is to make up the 3 stops via ISO, which would put you at 800 ISO. Or you can do a mix. Maybe go to f11, extend the shutter speed to 4 seconds, and move the ISO to 200. The decision on how you want to make up the missing stops of light depends on what you want in the results. There's not really a right answer to that. So Letitia, the key is knowing where you're starting and where you want to end up. Count your stops, then match the difference with your gear, whether it's a single filter or a variable ND. That's it. Thanks again for the question, Letitia, and thank you for listening. For the rest of you out there, if you've got a question, feel free to send it in. zim@nycphotosafari.com. And as always, keep on shooting.